welcome to our episode 6, which is a very, very special episode.
Tribeca Film Festival.
Yes! So, I, Rachel Leishman, went with Lauren Milberger.
Yes, we did. We went on a podcast field trip.
We did, to see the lovely J.J. Abrams.
I have a little crush on him now, I think. A little professional crush.
I took a lens flare photo of him.
That was pretty hilarious.
Yes. But it was so good.
Maybe we should talk about a little bit what we did. So we went to that together.
Yes.
I went to the Catastrophe Q&A with the amazing Sharon and Carrie Fisher and Gary Fisher. You went to Tina Fey.
I went to Tina Fey, and then I went to My Blind Brother.
And then I went to The Good Wife.
Yes.
So we really kind of covered it, didn't we?
I mean, there's lots we didn't go
No,
to,
yes. But we.
Yeah, but no, we did.
I love it. I go every year.
I'm saying, well, the years I've lived here, I've went. But I'm very upset about Carrie because I worked, and she was so close to my work.
She was announced very last minute, less than 24 hours before.
And I was so mad because I couldn't leave work. And Carrie, she had Gary.
She did. It was quite adorable. Well, let's talk about JJ. We'll go in order.
Okay, so JJ was first.
Yes.
JJ, so Lauren got there early, get us good seats, and I came from work. And so we went to see JJ, and I walked in and got my seat, and I was like, oh, I'm going to go to the bathroom, and I turn, and there's no one in the press line, but JJ's just going down talking to the press line. So I was like, okay, and I walked over, and I stood and just took some pictures of J.J. Abrams. I didn't get to talk to him or anything, but I was just like, I'm going to take.
You were pressed for the podcast.
I was pressed for the podcast, but didn't say anything. Made a friend. But made a friend of a photographer who called me a robot. It was quite an interesting moment.
I don't remember you telling me
Oh,
that.
yeah. He was he made a joke, and I said I was a droid. And someone behind me was like, well, you're cuter than BB-8. And I was like, that's not possible. And I was like, and that's also not the only droid. But, yeah, and then the guy was talking to me about androids. It was weird. But I got to see JJ. And I kept saying that I was so excited about lens flares. And I made fun of J.J. Abrams, and then he answered a question about what happened with the lens flares.
Yes, which he already had talked about on 60 Minutes, so people might know that he was interviewed by Chris Rock, which was really funny. But yeah, he was asked about the lens flares, and he pretty much apologized.
Yeah, he pretty much said, it's like when you get obsessed with something, and you take it to an extreme, and you don't know how to stop yourself. He's like, that's what I did with the lens flares. And I was like, all right, JJ.
There's a great thing on 60 Minutes where his wife was apparently the one who was said to him, you need to stop with the lens flares. Oh. And he was like, oh, okay.
I really enjoyed it, but I was a little disappointed that, they said regarding Henry, and I was, the sole person in the audience who was like...
I applauded as well, but yes, I think it was just us.
Yeah. But, and then, they opened it up to Q&As. And I was so mad, because 2 Q&As were put me in your things. Yeah. Can you cast me?
They were actors who stood up and pretty much were put me in your stuff.
And
which
I had
was
such
pretty
a
embarrassing.
funny question. And I was so angry, because it was my comedic debut at a Q&A.
Yeah, I couldn't get picked for the Q&A with Carrie either, and I was in the front row. Our mojo for questions, I think, is just something's up.
I mean, I'm normally really good. I didn't get my question for Tina either, but Tina, there was, one girl who had a really good question, and then the rest were kind of I want to be a writer. I'm like, Q&As are not your moment to promote yourself.
I agree. But the JJ was really interesting. I really didn't know that much about him creatively. I mean, I didn't really watch Alias.
So you and I are in 2 totally different fields with JJ.
I obviously know who he was, and I've read a lot about him, coming up to Star Wars and so forth. But I went out of there really, really admiring him and really liking him as a person.
He's great.
He's really funny.
Yeah.
I love what he said about writing. He really talked about how you need to write what you know and don't write what someone tells you to write, because then you'll be not really pandering, but you'll be doing something that
you're not into.
Exactly. Whereas if you do something that you are into and you are passionate about, he said the audience will come to you.
Yeah, and Lauren and I are very different, because my mother's favorite show, not her favorite show, but a show she watched religiously, was Alias. My brother loved Felicity. I watched Regarding Henry when I was younger.
I didn't know he wrote
Lost
regarding Henry until recently.
Oh yeah, and then the Star Trek reboots. Like, I am very, very, very much a J.J. Abrams fan, and which is funny because people don't like J.J. and I love J.J. And he didn't write Lost. He created it.
Yes, he did.
And Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse, they are the two who end up writing Lost.
I watched the beginning of Lost, and then I stopped in the middle, and I came back at the end. I definitely enjoyed what I saw.
Oh yeah, that show changed. That was like the first. I think that was the first TV show that I was like obsessed with. Like, I've always been an obsessive person. Like I said, I was 6 years old, saw Air Force One, and became obsessed with Harrison Ford. Before then I was obsessed with like Grease. I've always been obsessive. But I think that was like the first TV show that like took over my life for a really long time. Yeah. Because I remember like my teacher in high school called me Kate because of Kate Austin. I loved Lost. But also like before then was Nip Tuck, but Lost was like the one that kind of like was like, whoa, and I'm obsessed with this.
I saw the first Star Trek, and I watched Next Generation when I was a kid, but I would not consider myself a Trekkie. And I so appreciated a lot of the references, and what was put into it. So I really admired what he did with that. I know some people who are very much into Trek did not, so maybe because I'm not super into it.
Well, I mean, my brother who showed me Star Wars is more of a Trekkie than he is a Star Wars fan. Mm-hmm. He has a whole tree dedicated to Star Trek in our house. He made me sit through all 7 seasons of Deep Space Nine. And so I went into that movie with somebody who's like hardcore Trekkie, like wants me to go find Patrick Stewart so he can talk to him on the phone. Like,
he's on my train line.
My brother like wants to call Patrick Stewart so he can go, "Hi Patrick, this is Patrick."
You just hang on the R?
Yeah, I'm just gonna hang out on the R and be like, "Yo, Patrick, my brother Patrick loves you." No, but like, and so I went to that movie very much, okay, my brother's either gonna be obsessed with this or hate it. And he was like very much in the middle. Okay. Like he just likes it because it's new Star Trek. I think that's like me with the prequels. Is like I was very much into the prequels because it's new Star Wars. Yeah, it's a franchise I love. It's something I like to see. It's gonna be me with Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. It's gonna be me with that play that they're doing about Harry Potter. It's a franchise I love. Yeah. It's more of it. I don't care if it's bad. I don't care what happens. It's something that I enjoy, and I think that's like where a lot of the Trekkie fans weren't in that mindset. And I was like very proud of my brother. He hated the second one, which I loved. Because he was like, "This is a remake of Wrath of Khan." And I was like, okay, great. I think it's better. Because him and I fight because I think Chris Pine is a better Kirk. And him and I fight. Because
he must be really angry about that.
Oh, my brother, William Shatner is like one of my brother's heroes. And I hate William Shatner. And so that's like the one big thing my brother and I will never agree on. Because like, I love Bruce Springsteen because that's his favorite musician. I love Harrison Ford because he has Indiana Jones' hat on the end of his bed. Like, I agree on everything with him except for William Shatner. I don't understand it.
Well, the thing is that the more I read about JJ, and I mean, I did not know who he was. I saw Super 8 in the movie theaters. Yeah. I mean, like, I'm a fan, but I feel like now I'm like, oh, I'm a fan. Like, I think I don't know, maybe I haven't mentioned it here before, but when he talked about... Oh, I'm not sure. I don't want to really give a spoiler, not that we have, but with the tragic or the end game of Han Solo.
People know at this point. Han Solo died.
I know. He talked about how originally, and we'll talk about this more when we get to Force Awakens, obviously, that Kasdan and them, they had sort of written it that Han, his big thing was that he got back together with Leia. That like that was his sort of big arc. And JJ was like, well, what's he doing in this movie then? Like, he doesn't have any sort of connection to the plot. He has no arc. He's just sexy luggage. And I kind of really love that term, meaning that he's just a piece of luggage that sort of hangs around. He doesn't actually do anything. And so I've been referring to, like, characters that, you know, in my writing are the things that don't, you know, have a through line and don't have an arc and don't change. That's the biggest thing. Our sexy luggage. Because your character has to change. They have to go from point A to point B, or A to Z or whatever. They have to change throughout a movie to have a purpose in the film. Or I think Harrison would call it utility.
Oh, yeah. Well, the great thing about JJ is, and like, I I was, like, very much aware that, like, I had posted that week, like, my high school self was going to freak out. Because that week was, like, filled. I met David Tennant that week. Mm-hmm. I went and saw Benjamin Walker again in American Psycho that week. Then, a day later, I saw J.J. Abrams. It was,
like, a big week in New York.
And no, that was, like, the week of, like, high school Rachel is screaming. Because, like, I got into Doctor Who in, like, 2008 when David Tennant was the Doctor. And so then I saw David Tennant on Tuesday and freaked out. Bloody Bloody Andrew Jackson meant a lot to me in my senior year of high school. Mm-hmm. And I was, like, really into it. And so then I saw Benjamin Walker again. And then, like I said, like, in high school, my history teacher called me Kate. And I was like, oh my God, I'm meeting everybody in a week that, like, I've always ever wanted to, like, see. And then Carrie Fisher came next week and I was pissed. And so it was funny because I'm very much aware, like, oh, I love J.J. Abrams' work. I don't care that people don't. Like, I think he's great. And
it shouldn't
some
ruin
guy,
our enjoyment of his work.
Yeah, like, that's why I was like, I don't care. But some guy was behind me and we were talking, like, oh, well, if they do a Q&A, what question are you going to ask? And so I've always wanted to come up with this. I had this great, funny question that I mentioned on here before about if they asked if Harrison Ford could come back to Star Wars, but as Henry from Regarding Henry, would you let them? And I was explaining my question, and I was, like, using all these J.J. Abrams references and not realizing I was doing it. And the person beside me was like, wow, you're a way bigger fan than I am. And I was just like, oh. And what ended up pissing me off is they got a question and I didn't. And I was like, listen.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if maybe sometimes being too close makes them think, oh, we need to have the people in the back ask questions because they're so far away. Like, I don't know if he sort of balances it out. In the back.
But, like, I mean, it's fine. I didn't need to be funny.
Yeah. But he was funny. That was something I think that really struck me and endeared me to him. Was he was funny, and Chris Rock was funny, and they asked a lot of really good questions. They went through pretty much like all of his stuff. And but the interesting things I think for us was when he talked, like we said, like we talked about when he talked about writing and the creative stuff, but there was sort of a bit of a controversy because someone asked him about
a little boy asked him about Rey's parents, and JJ said, "Well, you don't know them yet." And the way he said it made it seem like they weren't in the movie.
Yeah, he said I can't talk. Yeah, he said I can't talk about it. I mean, obviously I'm paraphrasing, but because she wasn't in the movie, they weren't in the movie. And my heart sort of sank. I was like, huh. And I think everyone in the room sort of felt the same way. And then the internet went crazy that Rey's parents were not in the movie. But then Entertainment Weekly clarified that he meant that we don't know them in the movie yet.
We didn't meet them. Like, we don't know, like, for sure, like,
Rey
these are Rey, her parents.
It doesn't mean that they're not in the movie or not in that universe.
Yeah, they're not in her universe, is what he said.
It seems to me that I think that Lucasfilms has a new way that they're telling people to answer questions. Because all of a sudden it's become talking about or answering questions as if the next movie doesn't exist. So only talking about what people know in the current movie. Because Daisy's been asking or answering questions in the same way. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a new strategy that they're trying to do without lying. Because I know JJ has said that he regrets lying about Khan. He doesn't want to do that anymore.
It's not Khan. It's very obviously Khan.
Yeah. So if people don't know, was people asked him if he was in the movie. He went, no, that's not the character that Benjamin Cumberbatch is playing. Benedict. Sorry, Benjamin. Oh,
Benjamin Cumberbatch.
Like, I'm not obsessed with Sherlock.
His name would be Benedict.
I'm thinking because you said Benjamin Walker, and we're both exhausted because we've had crazy weeks. Oh my God.
Yes. So Benedict Cumberbatch was supposedly not Khan, but it was very obvious he was Khan.
So he said he regretted actually lying about it. So I feel like that this is a new Lucasfilm strategy, except for Harrison, who refuses to answer the question.
He just won't speak.
Yeah.
Then you talk about Carrie.
Okay.
My lovely Carrie.
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter. Like,
I was in a show.
And I figured you were busy. I'm, like, texting you like crazy, sending you every message that I possibly can because I was afraid it was going to sell out, which, of course, it didn't because it was at 3 o'clock. But, like, less than 24 hours, I'm on Twitter, and Tribeca, who I follow, pops up, just announced Carrie Fisher has been added to the Catastrophe panel tomorrow. Because apparently what happened was she was up in Boston getting an amazing award from Harvard, and Rob Delaney somehow canceled. So I guess they must have asked her to come down and replace him. So I'm trying to reach Rachel, probably figuring she has work anyway, which is why I didn't buy the extra ticket.
Yeah.
I think my gut was like, she probably has to work and she's not going to be able to get there in time. So I get myself a ticket. I get there early because we had gotten to most of our events about like an hour and a half beforehand and gotten really good seats. But I should have realized that in the afternoon, there probably wasn't going to be that much of a line.
No.
So I was in the front row. So going in the afternoon, there really wasn't that many people, and I ended up in the front row. And it was cute. There was a little sort of doggy bowl of food for Gary. Gary got, according to Sharon's Instagram, his own little...
Tribeca?
Yeah, he got his own Tribeca pass and his own chair.
Oh, Gary. But then he chose to lay on the floor.
Well, the problem is that he was really being really fussy when it first started. So, like, Carrie tried to get him to, like, get up on the chair, and then he was up on the chair, but he was being really loud. So, and then she was signaling to someone to come get him, but then no one came, so I don't know if she was just kidding or something. But he was being really, really, really fussy, and then finally, he just, like, lied down on the ground and fell asleep the whole time, like, right in front of me. But it was a really interesting interview. It was very obvious that, like, Sharon really, really loved Carrie, and she said the only time that there was improv on the set was when Carrie was there. Everything else was very well scripted. And that they had seen her when they went to an award show in London, and Sharon turned to Rob and was like, "That is your horrible mother." And she was perfect. And she joked that the two of them sort of, like, followed her around the whole time because they were so in awe of her. And really, enjoyed having her on. And she just loved the scripts and, decided that she wanted to do it. And they asked, how Gary sort of got involved. And they were like, how can you not, like, have sort of this dog in there? And it's funny, I was looking at my notes to sort of remember, because there's some clips online, but not the whole thing. And for some reason I wrote, waiting for Santa to arrive. And I don't know what that's from or how she said that. But she called Han Solo Han Santa.
Why?
I don't know. And I just wrote Han Santa arrives. So she said I was waiting for Han Santa, or just waiting around. I don't know. I just was, like, trying to, like, write notes really quickly and actually pay attention. But she did talk about Harrison sort of very, very briefly. And I kept seeing this quote, like, completely butchered, but they were talking about she was playing sort of a terrible person, and she said that she really wanted to play a terrible person, except to carry guns and talk to Harrison all the time.
But I don't understand that quote. So she just wants to talk to Harrison all the time?
She meant that it was nice to do something different, like play a terrible person, instead of just carrying guns and talking to Harrison all the time.
Okay. I get that now.
Yeah.
All right, Carrie.
So it was really lovely. They were really funny. She did the hologram speech from New Hope.
Of course she did.
3 times fast. And Sharon kind of looked at her like, wait, what are you doing? She was talking about how that was the most difficult thing that she had to do because they did it over and over again and she could never get it out of her head. Carrie thinks that Sharon should play a villain in Star Wars. But Sharon kind of laughed and was like, I'm too old to be a villain in Star Wars. We both know I'm too old, which is pretty funny. So it was really very cool. I didn't really get to talk to Carrie. She kind of got whisked out. I thought I was going to be able to get in there and talk to her. I mean, I met her before, but I know you haven't. And wanted to give her a message from you, but I wasn't able to. But I got to talk to Sharon afterwards, and she was really great. Very briefly. She was really sweet. She stayed and talked to some people.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so I'm really glad that I went. I just wish you were with me.
Yeah, I wish I could have gone, but alas, being an adult.
Yes, being an adult. But I really think that she's going to come to New York when her book comes out. Yeah. We'll go to a book signing, and you'll be able to tell her all the things that...
I'm like, yo, Carrie!
In person, which will be a lot more,
Yeah, I'm like, yo, Carrie, what's up?
That's exactly what you should say.
I will.
So then you went to Tina Fey.
And then I went to Tina Fey. Tina Fey was awesome. She talked mostly about Kimmy Schmidt.
Well, yeah.
Because obviously it was just coming out. She talked about sisters. She talked about her dad. Talked about Whiskey Fox Tango.
Which I have not gotten to see.
Or Whiskey Tango Fox. And it was just nice because, like, I went with Lauren Pokedoff, my friend, who is very much Tina Fey is her favorite person, and mine's Amy Poehler, so we've always been like, that's the Tina to my Amy. And, like, we're going to the Difficult People Vulture Fest.
She's going to be awesome.
Because that's where her and I became friends. Because my favorite polls. And so it was just really nice to be there and, like, listen to Tina, like, be very genuine with some questions. And most of the questions were not bad. Like, they were like, how do you stick to your guns in your writing? And, like, I think there was a girl was just like, what point of diversity do you still want to see? And she was, and, like, Tina was very much like, you were getting there, and, like, we're getting to a level of diversity in our entertainment. Mm-hmm. She's like, there's still a long way to go, but we're getting there. And it was just nice to, like, see Tina Fey and hear her talk about some stuff and realize that, like, when she was my age, she was working at a YMCA, like.
Yeah, she's talked about that.
Yeah, and so it was really cool.
Also, Carrie talked a lot about, although I think we know this, is that she never really wanted to be an actor. She just really wanted to be a writer. Mm-hmm. And she sort of, because she saw the end game, she saw where it went, and she was drinking a lot of Coca-Cola.
Yeah, of course she was. It's Carrie Fisher. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I really liked it. And then I saw My Blatant Brother last night.
Oh, yeah, how was that?
I really liked it. I'm a big Adam Scott fan, though, so I think I'm a little impartial. Because there was stuff, like, I was like, this is offensive to blind people. But, like, I also really liked it. And Nick Kroll was really funny. Jenny Slate was funny.
I love Jenny Slate.
There's a scene that she's so good, and she's crying in this, she's crying in a bathroom stall, and the scene is so funny. And so it's like she's having a genuine, like, crying reaction. The whole crowd was laughing, and it was like you were meant to laugh.
Yeah.
And it's great. I really, really liked it. There wasn't a Q&A or anything, but
yeah, sometimes they don't. Like,
I mean, there was a Q&A with the director, but it wasn't any other, like, cast, so I left.
Yeah, because that was a film, and then they had the cast afterwards, but there wasn't.
They normally do, but the director was there. But, like, no one else was, and I had to go do stuff, so I just left.
I find with the films that very rarely they do have something like that.
Oh, no, the ones I went to, they always had Q&As with the actors.
Oh, none of the ones that I went to. I guess you were lucky.
Yeah, last year, I saw Jason Sudeikis that way.
Oh, cool.
I saw the only movie that, the second time I saw it didn't have a Q&A was The Overnight.
Oh, okay.
But the first time, the cast is there and everything.
There's also things, too, like, I went, and Lauren, your friend Lauren, was actually there as well, to The Good Wife, and it was supposed to be like the finale, but they ended up just showing the episode that was going to air that night, and they didn't really they did like a Q&A with them, but they didn't take questions from the audience like they did at the ones that we went to.
Yeah, I talked to Lauren about that, and she thinks it's because of all the drama that went behind the scenes of The Good Wife.
Oh.
That she was just like, I don't think they wanted to, like, open that can of worms to the audience.
That makes so much sense. Because it seemed really weird, and I thought, was it because it was a combination of a Q&A and watching an episode?
No, I think it was because they just didn't
I think you're right. Well, honestly, they just have people raise their hands and, like, give them mics. They should just have people write questions down and have someone go through it. But I guess maybe that takes too long. Because, I mean,
they do that at 92Y.
Yeah.
And, like, one question got asked at a 92Y event, and it was great. And it's like...
Yeah, I never get my questions asked, and I raised my hand for Carrie Fisher. In fact, the funny part was it got to the point where I was raising my hand so much that Sharon pointed at me. Like, this girl keeps raising her hand, and no one is pointing at her. And then she looked at me, and I was just like, yeah, I guess that's what happens. Like, it's okay. It's not going to, And so when I talked to her, she was like, I'm so sorry your question didn't get. I was like, oh, it's fine. But I want to tell you I love the show.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Tribeca. Tribeca is great. I'm glad I live here so I can do stuff like Tribeca.
Yeah, so many great things that we get to take advantage of that are in New York, I have to say.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I was disappointed. I love The Good Wife, and I love everyone in it, but I had originally bought the tickets, and I think Lauren would agree with me as well, to see Kristen Baranski. Baranski did not show up. Although I got to meet Baranski in the fall at my job, so that was really cool. So I've actually had a really cool, intimate moment, so to speak, with one of my heroes. So that was great. But it was I think this is one of my favorite Tribeca years. But the addition of television, I think, has also been there.
Oh, yeah,
they usually don't have television panels, so yeah.
Yeah, it's been really good. I really liked this year. It was fun.
Yeah, and we have all the pictures that we took, and
you can see them on the Tumblr and the Twitter.
Yeah,
and but yeah, that was just a short little episode about our trip to Tribeca.
Hope you enjoyed it.
That happened, but bye. See you. Or next time we're gonna do Forced End and Avalon.
Yes, which is actually free on Amazon and Hulu. So if you have not been able to follow along with us because some of these movies are you have to pay for them, you can now do it for free.
Go watch it for free.
Yeah, and follow us on social media.
Yep, you can follow me at Rachel Leishman.
And me at Lauren Milberger. And our Twitter is the Fordcast PC, and our Tumblr is the Fordcast Podcast.
Yep, and send us your questions and anything you want to send us.
Yeah, we may actually mention you on the air.
What?
Oh my god.
All right, and until next time, see ya.
Bye.
F-O-R-S